It'll just be one more moment while I get the recording going here. Okay, you will be good to begin.
Keith, you're on mute.
Off to a great start there for sure. Yeah, so my time is saying 101, so I think we'll get started. Live stream has begun, and I think maybe in the interest of time and because this committee is fairly new, I think a roundtable introductions of people would be a good idea. And I'm not sure how to monitor that or who goes first, but if we can maybe just get everyone to introduce themselves, that would be great.
Keith, if I may, it's Kim. It might be easier. Sarah, do you want to just kind of call a roll and then people can say, yes, I'm here and this is who I represent or what my
absolutely
part it is? That'd be great.
Let me just see here. Perhaps I'll work down our panelist list as they kind of arise. So first on our list, we have Jim Nickel. Jim, would you mind giving us a brief introduction, if you don't mind being your guinea pig?
Yeah, sure, no problem. I am the operations manager for Grey County. I work with Mark. Mark does all the work with Weed Spring, but I assist him where I can.
Wonderful, thank you. And then next up we had Kim Wingrove.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kim Wingrove. I'm Grey County CAO. Nice to see you all.
And then getting into our members a little bit, we have Hugh Simpson.
Hi, I'm Hugh Simpson. I'm a commercial beekeeper, syrup producer down in the Singhampton Feversham area. And I'm not sure, I happen to be on the Grey County Federation of Agriculture board, but I'm not sure I'm here representing that committee, or maybe I'm just here as a farmer. Either way, I'm here.
Wonderful. And then next up we had Gail Ardell.
Hi, everybody. I'm Gail Ardell. We are apple growers. We have two properties, one in the Blue Mountains and one in Grey Highlands.
And getting into some of our members of council, we have Paul McQueen.
Yeah, a few hats I wear. I'm certainly a beef farmer in near the Robert Roy Singhampton area, neighbor to Hugh there, but we farm about 1,000 acres with my boys as well, but also a county councillor, and that's one of my roles as being on this committee as a county councillor as well, but I do have a lot of background in agriculture.
And then next up we have Blair Freeman.
Yes, Blair's here. Dairy and cash crop producer, Chatsworth, Ontario. A little bit of agribusiness involvement as well.
Very good. And next on my list here, we have Brenda. I'm sorry, Brenda. Sue?
Gray. So yes, I'm Brenda Schray. I farm in Chatsworth, organic sheep, a little bit of market gardening still, and I'm part of the National Farmers Union for Grey County.
Thank you, Brenda. And then we had Warden Milne. Oh,
you're on mute,
Mr. Warden.
There we go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, I'm Warden Milne. I farm in Township of Southgate.
Thank you very much. And returning to staff quickly, we have Courtney Miller joining us.
Hello, I'm Courtney Miller. I manage the Grey County Business Enterprise Center and also have a small beef farm.
Very good. And then Next on my list, we have Diane Booker.
Hello, we're a commercial cow-calf producer in Grey Highlands, and I'm also a representative for the Grey County Federation of Agriculture.
Returning to staff quickly, we do have Kalina Sanford joining us today.
I'm just new with the economic development team with Grey County.
Thank you, Kalina. And then Chair Reed, would you like to introduce yourself really quickly?
Sure, yes. So today's chair, Keith Reed, representing Grey Silva Conservation Authority, and Alice as well. And we have a mixed farm operation in Annan.
That's great. And then back to staff very quickly, we have Liz Buckton.
Great, thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm a policy planner with the County of Grey. It's lovely to see you. Thank you.
We have member Lori Smith joining us as well.
Hi, everyone. My name is Lori Smith. I work here at Grey Ag Services in Markdale. My husband and I have a cow-calf operation near Walters Falls, and it's great to see everyone.
And then Mark Cronin.
Everyone, Mark Cronin, the Grey County Weed Inspector. I work out of the Chatsworth Depot.
And Randy Scherzer is next on my list.
Good afternoon, everyone. Deputy CEO Randy with Grey County.
And then Rebecca Denard.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Daynard. I'm the Climate Change Initiatives Manager with Grey County. Lovely to be here.
Thank you, Rebecca. And then Rob Lipsett.
Good afternoon, everybody. Rob Lipsett, beef producer and cash cropper in the Annan area. I also sit on the Grey County Beef Producers Board.
Thank you, Rob. We also have a couple members of council left to introduce. So we have Councillor Mackey.
Good afternoon, everyone. Scott Mackey, Mayor of the Township of Chatsworth, which is primarily an agricultural community, and Grey County Councillor.
And Councillor Keaveney.
Hi, everyone. I'm Shirley Keaveney, Deputy Mayor, Municipality of Meaford, Grey County Councillor, and I don't currently farm, but I do come from a family long line of farmers.
Councillor Hutchinson.
Good afternoon, everyone. Tom Hutchinson, Deputy Mayor of West Grey, Grey County Councillor. I do not farm, but I am certainly surrounded by lots of ag, so thank you.
And next would be Director Taylor.
Hi, I'm Scott Taylor. I'm the Director of Planning with the county. I'm not a beef producer, but definitely a beef consumer. So thank you to all those that do produce.
And sorry about that. I believe Savannah was next up on my list.
Hi, everyone. Savannah Myers, Director of Economic Development, Tourism and Culture with Grey County. And I have Nancy with me, Nancy Johnson from McSweeney and Associates, who will talk to us in a few minutes.
And through you, Mr. Chair, I believe that was everybody.
Excellent. Thanks for taking the. Oh,
sorry there, Keith. I
okay,
am on.
So go ahead, Simon,
DeBoer,
introduce yourself.
Yeah, Simon DeBoer, representing Christian Farmers Federation, and yeah, a lot of involvement in agriculture.
Great, thanks. Good thing you could join, Simon. Appreciate that as well. So it looks like a full slate. I think there was 27 invitees and it looks like 26 participants. So I think for an Ag Advisory Committee to work, it has to be an overcast day, and I think that gets everyone out. So good on the county for picking a day where it's overcast. Getting started here, declaration of pecuniary interest. Is there anything to declare? Hearing none, we'll jump right into delegations. And we will introduce Nancy Johnson, from consultant from McSweeney.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Chair Reed. So Nancy's joining us today from McSweeney and Associates, who is doing our Economic Development, Tourism, and Culture Master Plan. So we started engagement and consultation in February, and we are now ground truthing. So we're bringing everything that we've heard through all of the consultations and all of the focus groups and stakeholder interviews and online surveys back to our committees and then to our staff to see, are we heading in the right direction? Are we missing things? Where is it that we can really provide value to the clients that we serve as Economic Development, Tourism, and Culture for Grey County? So we had one session this morning with our Planning and Economic Development Advisory Committee, which was very broad focus on all the sectors. But given you are our Ag Advisory Committee, we really want to zero in on agriculture sector and what exactly it is that you need from us and how we can best serve this sector to continue serving, to do things new and better, where you don't want us at all. Those are some of the things that we'd like to talk to you about today. So I'm going to hand it over to Nancy, and Sarah's going to help us out and share a couple slides. And then we'd like to have a good discussion with this group so that we can get all of the feedback since everyone is here today, which is great. So yes, cheers to an overcast day, and I will turn it over to Nancy.
Thanks, Savannah. Thanks for inviting me. It's as Savannah was saying, that we are working on the Economic Development, Tourism, and Culture Master Plan. And we're just going to go over briefly a few slides because really what we're looking for from you is some input. So we can go to the next one. So really, the reason why there is a strategy and why we're doing a strategy is really we're building on the previous economic development strategy. There's been a lot of things that have changed since that happened, since that economic development strategy was completed, and with COVID and all the other things. So it's really, as it's been named, the Great Reset. So coming up with some new and different things for the future. It's all about, as well, diversifying and strengthening the local economy and also providing direction to the guidance to the economic development and tourism activities. Okay.
Sorry, next slide.
So what we've been doing, as Savannah mentioned, is that we've done a lot of research on the county. We did a document review, and we also created a situational analysis, which is a really detailed sort of booklet on all the things that are data related in Grey County. And Savannah does have copies of those if anybody wants them. The other thing that we did was consultations. So we did consultations on the economic development side, but as well, and economic development and tourism, but also Grey Roots. So we did a number of one-on-one interviews, 26 interviews for economic development tourism, 17 for Grey Roots. Focus groups, we had 44 participants. We had an online survey, which was 129 responses and then 70 responses for Grey Roots. And then we held a working session where we started to develop actions for the themes that we were working on. And we had 45 participants there. So that's where we're at now. So next slide. So today, what we're really trying to find out is how to better understand how Grey County can best support agriculture as a key sector through this master plan. Next slide. What we found out through economic development and tourism is these are the 5 goals that we felt were the greatest opportunities. It was around leadership and collaboration, being investment ready, diversifying and expanding the economy, entrepreneurship and innovation, and then destination development around tourism. So agriculture falls into quite a number of those goals. So it's something to think about when we're talking after the presentation. The next slide. This is around Grey Roots and their goals specifically. And again, it's around leadership and collaboration, having inclusive storytelling, interactive experiences, destination development, and innovative practices. And there may be opportunities around this where agriculture can also be pulled in. Okay. So now we're down to the sort of nitty gritty. Right now, as Grey County how does Grey County support the agricultural sector today? There's networking, there's business startups, business scale-ups, agri-food marketing, and information sharing. And I don't know if you wanted to add anything on that, Savannah, about because you're more.
Yeah, there's a lot that happens outside of our department, but specifically in economic development, tourism, and culture. These are the 5 areas where we do find most of our staff time. And part of what we're interested in is this what you want? Are there things in here that we need to change or other things we need to add as part of where we go heading forward? Because we know a lot of work now happens with our planning department, which is why this committee works so well, because we do have planning and economic development, tourism, culture here together. A lot happens with climate change now as well, which is out of the CAO's office under our special initiatives. So there's a lot right across Grey. And for this specifically, we really want to focus on what our department as economic development, tourism, and culture can best provide. But any information that we can gather from the sector to impact any of our departments is important. So we'll take all the information, but we really want to funnel out specifically for the master plan, what fits in with ours. But please do feel free to share any of your thoughts, your feedback, your input, because we really need your opinions to help us shape where we're going to go. Knowing that agriculture is one of our key sectors, it is a base economy that is not going anywhere, and we want to make sure that we're doing what we can to support properly.
So I think that just sort of follows into the next slide. Is really what can Grey County do for you? So what can Grey County's economic development, tourism, and culture team do to continue to support the agricultural sector, to better support the sectors? Anything we should do, should not do, and then agri-food focus, is that still accurate? So do you want to just start with the first question? Is there anything, so what can Grey County's economic development, tourism, and culture team do to continue to support agriculture sectors?
You see your hand.
Oh, you're on mute.
I am. Okay, thank you. Okay, so at the risk of starting something off too early in the conversation, because I know you've got more slides to go. But I think, and I'm going to speak for one farmer only, but I wouldn't be surprised if this resonates with every other farmer that I know. One of the things that's so important to understand when you're building a plan like this is that, and I know you've done interviews and focus groups and you've engaged with stakeholders and so on. Understand that it's sometimes really hard to get input from the farm sector. So you've got lots of farmers on the call here today. We are a bit of an anomaly because most of the input from the farm community, happens at a, over coffee one morning in a coffee shop or somewhere. It's a little less likely that they're going online or attending stakeholder groups or responding to surveys and that sort of thing. So one of the things that occurs to me that Grey County economic development staff and really Grey County staff in general, and really even any of the municipality staff can help the ag sector with is to kind of move into a bit of a, if I could dare say it, an advocacy role, kind of recognizing, and you use the words, it's a key sector, it's a base part of the economy, build that in to the language that you use when you're making your plans. If you don't do that, there will be a risk to the farm community that the plans will get overwhelmed by those who are more likely to show up and provide you with input. And I'm going to just say that, that the demographic is shifting in favor of kind of a non-agricultural input. So you're going to get a lot more interesting, opportunity ideas from those who are perhaps, not really plugged in on the agriculture side. And it may be difficult to get a group together like us who's going to provide you with input. So it will be really helpful if your staff and if your plan has embedded language, perspective, tone, tenor, whatever you want to call it, that says, if we hear something that looks like it's going to be kind of moving us off this key sector, this base part of our economy, or that might feel like it's at risk to the farm community, the farm community really needs to, in some sense, rely on the staff to say, we get that. We understand that. We're gonna, even though there's no farmer in the room speaking for the ag sector, it's just strategic to us to protect and promote the ag sector in Grey County for all the reasons that we probably don't even need to articulate, but sometimes it just needs to be reinforced. So I guess the summary of that is for staff and for the master plan to embed the importance of the ag sector, the ag economy, whether or not you're talking about tourism, culture, land development, whatever it is that you're building into the important master plan for strategy. You may not get the input directly from a farmer, but what I think is important is for you to kind of just understand and agree and embed it, because it is strategic. I like what you said earlier, Sarah. I think you said, the ag sector is not going anywhere, and that's in a good way. It's not going anywhere. It's going to be here. It's an important part of our GDP. It's an important part of our culture. It's an important part of the reason people come here, but it's easily overwhelmed. So,
okay. Oh, that is super helpful. Really appreciate that. I think that's part of why we count ourselves so lucky to have this group in place, because you're here and we can have a conversation about this. So that is excellent. Thank you so much, Hugh.
Anyone else with any comments about the first one?
Yeah, Brenda.
I'm not sure if this is a continue thing, but there was like a networking event for women in ag, I don't remember anymore. It was in the springtime. It feels like a lifetime ago. And that was honestly the first one that I've experienced of that since I've been living here for like 14 years. So I don't know if they've been around since before then, or if that was just the first one. I think, Courtney, you were instrumental in setting that up as well. But I think that one way you could support the agriculture sector is to maybe help us as farmers do some more networking, because, we can get really stuck on our farms doing our own thing. We don't necessarily know even what, the people in the next couple concessions over are doing, and we're pretty spread out. So I think any opportunities you could give us to just meet each other and be able to find synergies of how maybe some of our businesses can work with each other, I think that would be a nice continuation. Or I don't know if it's continuation, maybe it's a new thing, but those are my 2 cents.
Perfect. I'll let Courtney, do you want to just comment on that?
Yeah, I was just going to quickly comment on how that came to be, just to speak to Hugh's point about the advocacy piece. So we had a young farmer who came in and was speaking with Philly and I about female representation on agricultural boards specific to our region. And she was hoping to speak to some other female agriculture leaders about how to get involved in that world. And that kind of spurred the event. We're like, let's have a networking event. It'll be an opportunity for female founded farms to get together and to chat. And then also he taught one of which was board representation. So definitely think we need to continue. But just to speak to Hugh's point about how, and Brenda's about how the individuals are on their farm, part of what made that event successful was the reach out that was done directly to the businesses to say, this is running, do you want to be involved? Because we know you are on the farm in your day-to-day, and odds are you aren't, scanning for events. All sectors struggle with that, but I find agriculture specifically needs a staff person who has the ability to reach out directly and talk to them about offerings and what they're hoping to get as far as, training and networking opportunities.
Awesome. Thanks, Courtney. Councilor McQueen.
Yes, thank you. A little bit of a different look at the agricultural side in the sense of supporting young farmers and encouraging or networking or sources for loans or whatever for young farmers. I know if you look at the agricultural side of the business in the sense of the cost of land, the cost of equipment, cost of everything, it is a pretty high hill to climb. But I just wondered if there are, networking, promotion of that, or opportunities for grants or opportunity to be advocacy, for young farmers, or opportunities in the sense of, I know I followed up with a Farm Credit Corporation in the spring and was asking for young farmers or, loans or anything available. Well, not really. Over 7% loans. Well, it seems pretty high. Anyway, just something in the sense, how do we support young individuals or families with regards to getting into the agricultural sector or promoting or however. Just, I think there's a side of the agricultural side. I think you would say that the average farmer, probably the average age of a farmer in it's Canada is getting near 55, 60 years old and more. We do need young people to grow our food and to be involved, and maybe there's lots of different ingenious or inventive ways of doing agriculture in a new way. There's always, we learn from our kids and the ways of doing things. I learn a lot from my kids on the farm. So, there are new ways of doing things, innovation. How do we promote that? And I think that's something that we need to, be strong on and support.
That's great. Thank you. I'm feverishly writing everything. So you don't forget, I know it's not going to be on video, but we want to be able to start work right away.
Awesome. How would you like to see Grey County better support the sector? Is there anything new that they should be doing? Lori.
I think, as you've already mentioned, the dynamic of our Grey County has changed a lot more people coming into the area, which is wonderful. Markdale is exploding, it seems. But a lot of people moving in that are further detached from agriculture, that really are not aware of what we do, why we do it, etc. So if there's some way to, tell our tourists, tell the new people here, what to expect about our farm animals, about the equipment on the roads, what are their rights, what's the best way to negotiate that large equipment on the road. All those little kind of tips might help the interactions down the road between the newcomers, tourists, and the farmers. From a tourism perspective, I remember Paul actually saying during COVID, people were parking on his property and going through a walk through his bush because they thought it was public lands and they could hike on his bush, through his bush. So that's not reality. So you would think most people would know that. But if you live in the city all the time and there's a whole pile of parks, maybe you think Grey County is a park and you can go where you please. So all of those communication pieces, I think, would help everyone, farmers alike, as well as the newcomers and the tourists that come to Grey County. Thank you.
That's excellent. I know last year, actually, it was Courtney who helped us put together a marketing campaign around canola fields. And no, you can't just walk into a canola field. They're beautiful, but that is not something you can do. And there are health risks associated with that if you're not prepared, and just stay off the property. So yes, absolutely appreciate that. Simon.
Yeah, just a couple of things, and extending on Laurie a little bit, and can't help to say, like, as far as the agricultural community itself is concerned, I sure hope that the agricultural program that Chesley High School offered, that there will be an extension on it. And I do have a conflict of interest saying this because, but Grey Bruce Farmers Week is an excellent tool to update your farm skills and get to know people in agriculture. As far as newcomers and tourists using our roads are concerned, I have no more hair to turn gray, but when you're on the road with farm equipment, it is not nice. It is, yeah. And should there be more done, I think, with training, like the driver training, that people get to know like how long, how wide farm equipment is and where the lights are. And if a farmer has his single light on a left-hand turn, he's going to make a left-hand turn. And there again, this week, there was somebody that passed me with great speed when I had my left single light on.
Okay. That's very helpful. Thank you. Rob.
Thanks. And maybe to support farmers, this won't come as a real shock to Lori and maybe a few others on the call. It's a little different, maybe attitude than we're talking about, but I wondered if we could do, if the county would be interested in putting on a night for local farmers struggling with mental health issues, that they could get together and be in a room with people with things in common. I know personally, I've found it a real struggle to find people that understand what I'm talking about. So something like that. And then the second piece I wondered, and this is more directly related to what we're talking about, is if we had like a vendor guide on the Grey County website or somewhere more prominent that tourists could go on and find the Purple Hill Lavender Farm, or someone selling beef at a farm gate stand, vegetables, fruit, Hughes, honey, and maple syrup. If that's something that people could just log on quickly and find something to do for an hour while they were in the area as a tourist, but then they could help support local agriculture by buying products as well.
That's awesome. Thank you.
Just to comment on that, I was going to say, so I grew up in the Waterloo Wellington area, and there was always an agritourism map that was published with a whole bunch of different, the people that have a farm market that have strawberry you pick and use honey and whatever else, whoever else is, I don't know what the threshold is to be published in the map, but something like that, potentially businesses that would meet the threshold to be part of that.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Simon, back to you.
I don't want to steal Laurie's thunder about mental health. I am involved with several mental health helplines and counseling and what have you. I must say that the uptake is too low. I don't know what the real reasons are, but there should be more people tapping into that resource that is available. A lot of times it's free, confidential, and very helpful. And it bothers me to some extent that there is no more uptake.
Lori, go ahead.
So a couple of things, several of us on this group are part of Guardian Network, a farmer wellness initiative, and there's more and more people getting involved in that, and it trains us as to how to listen and chat with farmers that are experiencing issues and getting them the information they need and giving them the telephone numbers, et cetera, and kind of walking through them with them through the journey. So, and every year we have usually a mental health course at Grey Ag Services as part of our winter programming. We also make it a focus during Grey Bruce Farmers Week, and Rob helped us last year to do an excellent on-demand video that we offered as well. From a Grey Bruce Farmers Week perspective, I would encourage all Grey County staff to come to Grey Bruce Farmers Week on any of the 7 days that you would like and hobnob with us wonderful farmers. It's a great opportunity during the breaks and meals to just sit down and chat with them and find out what are their concerns. How can you, just all the questions you're asking us today, you can ask the, 200 and some farmers that are in the room. So that would be a great opportunity. Another, just finally, Dufferin County and other counties have a day on the farm. And Emily and I have been kind of talking about this. I know it would be a huge job and it could cause some issues, but wouldn't it be fantastic if Grey County had a day on the farm where you have featured farms and all of these newcomers to our area have the opportunity to visit these maybe 3 farms. We can talk to Dufferin County as to how they do it, but it might be an interesting thing for us to do some year. Agriculture, as everyone's saying, is a big part of Grey County. So let's highlight it and communicate and educate. Thank you.
Well, that's great. We heard about that this morning, actually, in our Planning and Economic Development Committee that Town of Blue Mountains is working on
Open fields.
Yeah, open fields. Instead of
Fields.
open doors, it's open fields, which is really cool. We love that. But that's a great suggestion. We've written it down again. Perfect. Thank you. Back to Councillor McQueen.
Right, make my comment. You gotta love Lori Smith's enthusiasm. That's why she's part of the Grey Egg Services, which is, we're so blessed. Something else that I was thinking that as I listened to the conversations here about the opportunity to, I guess you call it your urban cousin, to get familiar with the rural or the agricultural side. Something that we're quite blessed here in Grey County is a number of agricultural local fairs that are put on by all volunteers, and it's an event that showcases a little bit of the farm side of things. And not only that, as Lori said, about talking to farmers, there's lots of farmers that do attend those, and lots of conversations, lots of events, lots of things happening. So I wondered if there's a way that the county could promote the Grey County agricultural fairs in the sense of what it is, what you could do at these fairs, and what all the benefits of attending these fairs from a tourism aspect, or just even in supporting the local fairs and a lot of different things. So I just wondered if that's something that could be, it might be that way of sort of connecting, the non-agricultural side maybe with the agricultural side in a more of a lighter way. Anyway, just food for thought.
No, that's great. I've got that marked down too now. It's wonderful. And we did just put in the chat so you can see it, the link to the agri-food asset map. So that was a work in progress that now needs a refresh, as we find with all of our maps and itineraries and all of that. Things change a lot, but I did want to just share it with you and say that that is definitely on our radar and something that we would like to refresh and make a little bit more user friendly. So thank you for bringing that up, Blair. Appreciate it.
This is just outside of the box, but there's a lot of people that I know from outside of the area that come in to hike on the Bruce Trail.
Mhm.
Would there be any way that you have like local attraction signs at a few like Bruce Trail starting points? Maybe the Bruce Trail Conservancy wouldn't want anything to do with this, but it might be a way for you to partner with an organization.
And that's a great suggestion. We have heard that through our outdoor management group that has all of the different trail groups connected in it. And that was one of the things that we've been asked when people do come to the trails and to experience the area, they're looking for other things that they don't necessarily know about. So this is a great point that we'll definitely take back from this group as well as that group. Lori.
I'm sorry for hogging the floor. Sometimes when we look at Grey County and agriculture, Grey County farming is very diverse. So we have, as everyone's been talking when we did our welcome, beef and dairy and sheep, and we have big cash crop farms, and we have smaller CSAs, and we have our vegetable growers. We're very diverse. And I think it's important that when Grey County's doing their programs, projects, any of their brochures. I know it's hard not to focus just on a few, but we need to make sure that they realize the diversity of us. And I think sometimes the conventional farmers, larger cash crop, et cetera, maybe take a back seat to some of the CSAs and the organics and that sort of stuff. So just be aware of the optics of that, that you're focusing on the wide swath of agriculture, not just one part of it. Thank you.
That's helpful. Thank you. Keith.
Yeah, so Lori, you've kind of taken my thunder. I was holding on to that to the point of anything we should not do. And I think that that's where I was going to go with that. I think even to extend on Lori's point, even within an industry itself, when you look at the dairy industry, there could be a herd of 30 to a herd of 300. And what each individual dairy farmer's needs are very different within that sector itself. So it's hard to paint with one brush to meet everyone's what they're thinking. And I was going to maybe talk too about sometimes Hugh was mentioning as well about, reaching people through surveys. I think you kind of get the same results from the same people answering the same questions. And I'm wondering if you're ever in, looking for information to add to your list, sometimes maybe even just a quick pop into an individual's place may garner a great conversation that somebody that wouldn't maybe even be at Graybers Farmers Week, but would be a great potential person to add comments to help within the county's initiatives here.
Mm-hmm. Well, absolutely, yes. Any kind of site visits, BAM tours, BRNE type of role, absolutely. And that's something that I know Philly was very, very good at. She was constantly having those conversations with our businesses. And that is the role of our economic development officers, to be out and about in the business community, having those conversations, because we know you can't always come to us and we should never expect that. So being able to get to your doorstep is very important. So appreciate that. Perfect. Diane.
Trying to get unmuted, just listening to everything. There are like the National Farmers Union and the Christian Farmers and the Great Federation. If we all partner together to do some of these things that you're talking about, we could probably do big days or little days, or just that we all know what's going on so we can help each other out.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That leadership and collaboration, right? That's perfect. That fits right there.
And communication.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you.
Sounds another idea here, but it sounds silly and simple. But so over in Simcoe County, there's an agribusiness over there that works with some of their customers, and they put up signs on their fields, and it's to market to people that are like driving to Wasaga Beach. And it's as simple as, "This is corn, watch it grow," or "This is canola, watch it grow." And I wonder if something like that on some main roads, when we talked about the advisor or the being an advocate for agriculture, if that would go a long way when we talk about the tourist element coming through our area, right?
It's a great idea.
That's awesome. I've seen those signs. They're very cool. That's awesome.
It's Homes Agro that puts those up over there, and it's just on main roads, and they'll, it's just to ask the people that are going to the beach.
Perfect. Thank you. Diane, your hand's back up, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So we have, Great Federation has a number of those signs. So 2 years ago, we were able to get funding from OFA to print those signs. I have at least 20 in my garage. If somebody wants them on their field, give me a call and we can get them up. They say corn, beans. I think we have hay, pasture, and we could probably get more made if needed.
Awesome. Thank you. Perfect. Do you want to continue in the do not do?
Yeah, anything else that Grey County shouldn't be involved in? or everything, they're not involved in it, they're okay. They're doing a good job not being involved. We're good?
I would
So
echo
the-
Keith in that it needs to be every sector recognized and not dominated by any particular part of the agricultural sector. Otherwise, people will they'll slough it off or think it's not relevant, right?
Yeah, for sure. So what about around agri-food? Do you still feel that that is a good focus that for the county? Any comments? You?
Sometimes I think yes, but somebody might read that and wonder what it means. And you know, that goes all the way from I don't know, the restaurant bar business to a commercial cow-calf operation. And so I have always found agri-food and focus in the same sentence to be a bit conflicting, because agri-food doesn't really focus. It doesn't really tell me what is the focus. Are we talking about farming? Are we talking about the economy that is somehow connected to farming? And the broader we paint that, the less focused and the more vague it is. So I think what we're talking about is the right thing, but agri-food to me is not real, very descriptive vernacular.
So we need to make it more descriptive.
Yeah, if we're talking about farming,
Mhm.
then let's say farming, because that's what we are. We're farmers. I don't think any of us, unless we're ticking off a box for some form, tick off agri-food. We tick off farming. We're not restaurant owners. We're not. Some of us might be processors. There's a lot built into agri-food, and I think it's an important part of a master plan. But as it regards an agricultural advisory committee, the input I'd provide is let's be more precise about farming and focus on farming.
Lori.
May I ask what you meant by it? Agri-food. What was your intention?
That is a great question. And that was something that came out when we did, I'm trying to think, what year was it? 2017, maybe, when we did the local agri-food strategy that started as a local food strategy. And then when we were working through that, we were very quickly made aware that we can't just do local food. We need to think more broadly about going right from farm to table. So in my head, that's where we've been, is that farm to table piece, and where it fits in with tourism and where it fits in with those networking components. But we're probably missing things, or we've created a really big catch-all, as Hugh has just mentioned. And that's probably exactly what we did to not miss anybody. But is that accurate and does it work? Sorry, Kim, go ahead. You're on mute.
Yeah, I would just add, it hasn't been kind of top of mind recently, but a few years ago when we were talking about some of these things, there was a real issue about further processing and what was happening with abattoirs, etc. And so part of this, I think, was meant to capture some of the challenges that the farm sector was facing when it came to further processing and trucking and dead stock and just a lot of things that went across the whole chain.
Simon, go ahead.
That whole scenario of abattoirs for processing is still very accurate today. Like there is a chronic shortage of abattoir space and hook space now. There is a little change a change has taken place since inflation took a hold of the price of meat. People are probably shifting eating habits, but anyways, there is still a desperate need for more hook space in the counties.
Oh, Courtney?
I just had I want to take one quick step back and ask Lori a quick question, but also to others in the room, specific to anything we should not do. And I had a question about the training piece. So I know, BFO, EFO, Lori, your organization do incredible training for farmers. Is that a space in which you feel we have complemented you in the past, or has there been some duplication? And if there has been duplication, is that an area in which, we step back a little bit as far as training because these other organizations are doing a great job of it? Not speaking to kind of the peer-to-peer piece, because I think that's really important, that's happening on a local level, but more the specific training.
So in terms of course content, in the past, typically I would reach out to Philly. And if, for instance, when we were talking starting a farm in Ontario, she was planning to do something and we were planning to do something. And so we spun it differently. But certainly having that communication between Grey County and us while we're doing our winter course planning in September, October, that'll be key so that we don't have overlap. So thank you, Courtney, for bringing that up. I guess I'm not really aware of all of the training that you may offer at Grey County. And so that's perhaps an issue on my part that I don't know what all you're doing, but we should be aware of what each other are doing and what the other organizations are doing around us. I agree. There's only so much time, as we've been saying, in a farmer's life to do training. And so winter is the time to do it, January through till mid-March. And so if we can all work cooperatively to get the best roster of educational programs, that's probably great for everyone. Thank you for the question.
Perfect.
Courtney, do you want to mention just some of the training that has happened or some of the business development side, like the food venture?
Yeah, so working with Food Venture on, they have developed a specific scale up program for food producers, which we are going to be offering this fall. And Lori, I'll send you these as well. Just that was I wanted to make sure that that connection was happening. And then an intro to a food business. We're doing just an hour and a half course. It'll happen quickly one evening. But I really do see us moving because we had such incredible feedback from the spring event. We had 45 female farmers come out for that evening, and I really feel that kind of peer-to-peer learning experience is kind of what's needed, and maybe where we can move a little bit if the training pieces are being met by other organizations, or we partner on the training pieces because we love partnering and supporting however we can, but necessarily don't have to lead them. So that's really kind of where I was curious as to the feeling that everyone else had about that training space.
So is there anything else that anybody has any comments on, even if they're not related to any of these questions? This is your opportunity.
You go ahead.
Okay, never pass up an opportunity. One of the really hard things, you guys are working on a strategy here, and I know it's a build on a previous one, but you're still building a strategy. And one of the really hard things about building a strategy when you've got a diverse stakeholder group is making choices about what you say no to. And just kind of hearkening back to the conversation we had on the maybe the vagueness of something like agri-food as a focus, as an example. It's really tempting when you're building a strategy, whether you're the consulting firm helping or the staff building it, to try and make everybody feel like they have been equally included. And I hate to say it, but in business, that just never works. You just cannot be everything to all people. So to the extent that the strategy says, we're going to put equal resources, energy, time, money into, let's just say, developing a newcomer community, as we are to sustaining and promoting and developing our agriculture sector. My observation is that there are conflicts there that need to be resolved before you can say that's a legitimate strategy. Because the two things, something in a strategy needs to be your vision, And since you're talking with an ag group and our background and our interest is ag, I'm suggesting that you need to be clear with the stakeholders about whether it's really the key component to a strategy, or is it just one of sort of many components that we're going to do our best to kind of bump along with. And just as you said, this is our opportunity to say something. I do think it's an opportunity based on the input you're getting and the time is right and so on to make a strategy that makes a statement about how agriculture really fits into the next 15, 20, 25 years in Grey County.
Okay, that's great. Yeah, that's a great point. And I think the benefit of us talking to this group now and doing, this engagement now is that we haven't figured out what all those actions are yet. And we don't know how we're going to weight it or any of that, because we need to have this next round of consultation saying, this is everything we've heard. And I think we could probably keep every staff in Grey County busy for the next 10 years with everything that we've heard. So now we really need to start prioritizing what realistically can we do as staff to actually deliver to something. And that is, it's going to be difficult. And I would love to ask this group, knowing we've now had a conversation about just how diverse our agriculture sector is and how the needs are so different. Where do you see the most need? In which area of agriculture, in which support or which service, what would you prioritize as our agricultural sector to say, if you could do these 3 things for me, we'd be set on a good path. And if you can get to the rest, awesome. But you really need to focus your energies here. Where would you go? Lori, go ahead.
This may not be what you would think would be in the top 3, but I did want to mention it before you stop this topic. And this is, I'm a broken record on this thing. Farm implements on the road, I've already mentioned, is a huge issue. And when we chat with our farmers, especially those on major parts of your roads in Grey County, they are constantly having issues. We have a lot of attention to bike lanes and bike signage and, be cautious of bike riders, but we're not emphasizing our farmers that are on the roadways and helping them. If they get in accidents, etc., that's a huge problem. Their mental health, from mental health perspective, you are very stressed when you are driving on the road with your large implement, especially on a long weekend. So if there's any way we can help them, they have to travel on the roadways because we have multiple farms. So it's a necessity of our job. So we need to instill some patience and some education so that we don't run into huge issues in the future. Thank you.
Great, thanks. Gail?
Sorry, I had to mute myself. Along with Lori's lines, in the Blue Mountains, and I'm in the very lower part of Grey Highlands, we have issues here. And I think it's educating the people that come to the Blue Mountains and to Grey Highlands. We have bike races, we have like large implements, we're haying. There's just so much happening. And if we could educate the tourists when they come here and to respect farmland and respect the farmers who are farming to feed, we feed cities, we feed towns. It's something along that line, because we've just had some bike races and the OPP blocked the farmer who was trying to get his hay. They stopped him 3 times. They stopped his wife. He's just trying to get the hay in. And they were saying, like some of the cyclists were saying, well, do that another weekend. We're doing a bike race. So I hate to be negative, but that's what's happening with the tourists that are coming to the Blue Mountains. And but you got to get your hay in before it's raining. We've got to get we have to spray our our apple trees, and why are you spraying? And, you know, and then you get some other comments about, well, you're doing too much to the apples. Well, if we don't spray our apples, we can't sell our apples. You know, we sell to Costco, so we have to have these strict guidelines. We have to respect Costco's guidelines. We have to fulfill everything that they want for their product. So, you know, we have to do everything we can possibly do to get food in the stores, which is our Apple products, and to the people. But I think it's education. We get a lot of people up here and they just don't understand, you know, what we're doing. Just our neighbor, there was 3 cars down there and they were out in his canola field. If you go down further to Ravenna, the canola is not ready there, but on our Gray Road 40 here, it was ready, and they were all laying in his canola, taking pictures, and it's like, okay, this isn't acceptable. So, and then we get the comments when the foreign workers come to pick the apple crop. Well, can they not pick a better day to go to the grocery store because we're here? And I'm sorry I'm being negative, but this is what we have to face here in the apple industry. Sometimes it's like, no, they have to feed themselves too. So they're entitled to go to the grocery store because they are working here and they're living here. So I think it's more the education component and getting the word out there that while, you know, people are farming, they're doing the best they can possibly do to bring food to you. Just a few of my comments. I know they're negative, but I'm sorry, but that's what's happening.
Oh, they're very helpful. Yeah, we appreciate that. Yeah, go to Keith and then Carrie, you're next.
Yeah, sorry. I hate being, this is the worst part about being a chair, but I'm wondering if we should move on. Because Carrie has her hand up, we haven't heard from her yet. I would like to get her comments, but Hugh has also put in some comments in the chat. I'm wondering if that might be a great opportunity as well. Just looking at the time here, we maybe should be moving on. But if Carrie, if you have some comments, would love to hear from you.
Sure. Sorry. Hopefully you can hear me okay. Just to possibly come up with some solutions from what Gail had brought to the table there. Maybe getting an education piece to tourism, throwing stuff on the radio possibly, like if we could have a bit of a campaign possibly on the radio that runs in the summertime regarding producers' fields or farmers' operations and how to respect the area. Could be a fun way and an easy broadcast system. Another route could be large billboards. There's lots of unused billboards right now in the countryside. Just a couple of solution pieces to what maybe Gail's running into in her neck of the woods.
Oh, that's excellent. That's very helpful. And it works out well that tourism happens to be in our department also. So that is perfect. Thank you all so much. I'm sorry to take so much time, but this has been hugely valuable. Do you want to just talk next steps real fast?
Yeah, the next steps that we have is that we're going to be developing the actions. Right in the next 6 weeks, we're going to be presenting or getting together in September to really solidify the actions with staff. And then we'll be working on the master plan. So both the draft and then doing the final. And then presenting to council in October. So thank you very much for all this input. That was great. It was a lot of different information that we haven't had before. So that was fantastic.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah.
And if you think of things after this meeting or at any time between now and the end of September, please do email me or Courtney or Sarah, whoever is best. Give us a call, whatever works, because we want to make sure that we keep collecting any information. And then once we get a final strategy, it will always be a work in progress. So we'll have lots of consultations and communication ongoing with it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Savannah. Thanks, Nancy. And I hate to disrupt such great conversation, but we should probably be moving on. Moving on to number 4 and reports. Verbal update with the management of the spread of wild chervil. I think we're heading to Jim or Mark.
Yeah, just but we have a little presentation. It's not we give a bit of history and for the spraying of chervil and then what we've done this past season, and then we can take some questions. So Mark, if you want to go ahead and you can go through this. Or I can.
The wild chervil is a noxious weed native to Europe. It's an aggressive competitor with broadleaf weeds to shades out all other vegetation in the area and steals a lot of water and nutrients from other plants. When it matures, it forms a large, dense vegetation stand, and not even a lot of livestock like to eat on it, other than I've heard goats don't mind chewing on it, but other than that. Produces a large amount of seeds that is easily spread by people, animals, and wind. And it's difficult to control due to the resistance to certain herbicides and its deep root system. The herbicide we use is called Navius Flex, made by Bayer. It's originally produced by DuPont. We did some testing with the University of Guelph and the Ontario Weed Inspector, and this product turned out to be the best, most effective product to use on it. The best time to spray is in its just early stages of growth, but a foot to a foot and a half or so before it really goes to flower. We did have a cutting period where we went at it mainly just cutting it, and really wasn't very effective because it grows back so quickly and very tedious to stay on top of. So these are 2 of the testing areas that we did in 2011. The bottom corner is the corner of Grey Road 40 and Grey Road 7, right by the hydro station. And there's also a second spot done back in the Grey Sauble area. So these are pictures of the treatment area 7 days after the original spray. We also sent out a media blitz with postcards to let everybody know exactly what wild chervil is and what to expect and how to deal with it. This is a picture of the plot, so you can see how thick the wild chervil is in that area. After 14 days, you can see significant damage to the plants, and they were starting to die off. After 60 days, you could see that they had fully died off, and the dead stock just still standing. This is 1 year after. You can see everything to the bottom away from the chervil was chervil out at the last year's point, or 2 years point before that. So the product was very effective in that area. Unfortunately, we only have the ability to go to the fence lines. So this year, we mainly drove our roads in spot sprayed areas where we found the wild chervil. There was 295 locations. We sprayed the 4.8 hectares and used 962 liters of Navius Flex herbicide. Well, that's the mixture with water. These are the areas. As you can see, it's a lot more areas in Georgian Bluffs, Grey Highlands, Southgate, and Blue Mountains, but it has been popping up all across the county. This is a map of all the locations in the north end. And that's the south end. So moving ahead, we're going to continue to spot spray and do what we can do on our right of ways, try and keep them clean. We're going to get in touch with agriculture. Any questions, we're here to try and help answer questions. We're also out treating wild parsnip, hogweed, phragmites, and knotweed, and continuing to map all these locations so we can keep track of year-to-year spraying.
Okay, are there any questions? That look, oh, there we go. Simon, looks like you have a question.
Oh, that wild chervil, is it resistant against Roundup?
In the testing plots that we did with the numerous chemicals, Roundup did not work very effective on it. That the plants have a deep carrot root to it. It's related to the wild carrot family, and the Roundup wasn't very effective.
Thank you.
Scott Mackey.
Thanks, Mr. Chair, and thanks very much, Mark, for the presentation. Certainly, we've been made aware of the prevalence of wild chervil, and any idea why it's prevalent or more prevalent in certain areas? I know Georgian Bluffs has been struggling with it. That's my first question. Second question is, what is the landowner responsibility, and what's the mechanisms for making a landowner get rid of wild chervil?
I can't really tell you why it grows so better in certain areas. I find in the Blue Mountains area, it's all around the waterways. It really likes damp areas to flourish. Plus, it's very difficult to do anything with it in those areas. I can't get down into a lot of areas around the rivers. For the difficulty with getting stuff done on properties has been, there hasn't been a product approved to use on personal land. Like before Navius Flex, the product was called Truvist, and it was only certified for roadside spraying. So now they've streamlined this product into a new name, and it's also available on the label to use for pasture lands. But there's lots of stuff to follow on the label for where it can or can't be used.
Gail Ardell.
Yes, thank you. A question to Mark. Are you doing a reactive wild chair management, or are you continuing to do a broad spray in the Blue Mountains and Grey Highlands? Sorry.
So we had a 3-year program with Greenstream. They're a company down out of Oakville, and they did pretty much a complete roadside spray for those 3 years. After that, we felt we're getting close to where our staff can handle it ourselves. So now we have mapped out our areas, and so we continue to follow the map that we showed earlier, hit those areas until we get them as clean as possible. Being as close as you are, you could see at 40 and 7 that it is very effective. It's just a matter of keeping it at bay from the other properties.
Right. Just because the Blue Mountains is doing a reactive, we have, and I will declare, I'm not talking, I am a counselor in the Blue Mountains, but I'm not talking as that. I'm just talking as a member here. We have some residents who live in farming areas who do not want their property sprayed, but they are supposed to be cutting it down, but they're doing neither. They don't want it sprayed and they don't want it cut down, so it is going in people's hayfields. so there's another problem with farmers having to fight this. You know, we do spray our fields ourselves and to keep it at bay because we do hay and we don't want it in any of our hay. But I'm just, are you having those? Are you doing spot applications in other parts of Grey County or just the broad spray?
That whole map that we showed earlier is all done by spot spraying this year. It wasn't any broad spraying, just spot spraying. I haven't had any requests from farmers to write up a weed order against their neighbor. What can be done through the Weed Act is a weed order can be written up by the. I prefer everyone to go through the municipalities first, since they have bylaw and everything, which Grey County doesn't. To go through their local bylaw inspectors, weed inspectors, ask them to write up a weed order, to ask their neighbors to deal with this noxious weed. Grey County has deemed it noxious, and then the Ontario weed inspector followed up after dealing with this stuff with me. He's added it to the Ontario list. So it's part of the list of weeds that need to be taken care of. And if people are having issues with their neighbors not taking care of it, then there is stuff to be done.
Okay, thank you.
Blair? Blair has his hand up, but he also went dark there for a minute. So maybe we'll skip to Hugh.
Okay, thanks, Keith. Mark, thanks for the presentation. What do we say to those concerned around toxicity or any comments you want to make on unintended consequences or something? Generally speaking, I get lots of questions as a commercial beekeeper. I get lots of questions when spraying gets done about bees and beneficial insects and harm to humans and that kind of stuff. What's the message that we use for that?
I've had a few bee farmers stop me on the side of the road asking me exactly what I'm doing as well. I've been assured by the product company that the product that we're using is not harming bee life at all. It does take away from the broadleaf flowers and everything in the ditch lines, but to take care of what we have in noxious weeds is something that needs to be taken care of first, over the fact that that the bees are going to be there in the ditch line. There's lots of flowers to be found, I find, and not just in the ditches. We're just trying to take care of what we can, so it's not an easy thing to explain to everybody.
And the guidelines are followed, so hopefully we don't get too much drift. We don't spray on windy days, and hopefully it stays close to where it's sprayed. We understand as Mark said, a few beekeepers have called us about it, and we're sympathize with it for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Blair, your hand's still up, but I'm not sure if you're still there. Okay.
Yeah, no, sorry, my camera's just eating up too much internet. So my two questions. So I'm assuming when you talk about spraying this, that you are only talking about county roads, and that township roads are the responsibility of the individual township to do or not do. I guess clarification on that, number one. And then number two, wondered about any education or outreach that you are doing to growers in the farm community. I would never write up a neighbor that has a whole bunch of chervil, but it would be nice if there's some of these neighbors might get some information about what they could do about it.
You are correct. The municipalities are in charge of their own programs. We just handle our own Grey County roads. As information wise, we just have the stuff we've put online and the postcards that we had sent out a few years back.
Through you, Mr. Chair, I believe CAO Wingrove had her hand raised as well.
Yes, for sure.
Thanks. And then I was going to kind of speak further to the points that Mark and Jim made, but I think they did a great job of covering that off. We're, you know, at county, we can only follow the regulations as they've been written and the policies that have been provided to us by the provincial and federal government. And we try really hard to make sure that we're using all the best practices that we should, but we do recognize that, you know, spraying is a very a contentious matter in a lot of people's minds. I think there's not as much maybe familiarity as there should be about the Weed Act and what plants are actually on that noxious weed act. Like, I don't know that people generally would be able to look at a plant and be able to tell you that that's a noxious weed, and whether or not you want it sprayed. It probably, you don't want it on your property and you might want to do something about that. So perhaps there's some more education and towards stewardship that way that we could be looking at.
If I may, Chair Reid, just to follow up with you, we did for the past 3 or 4 years when we were spraying all our guide rail, and we haven't sprayed them for the last 2 to 3 years. So we do have a mower now that we're using. So we're going to try to reduce our glyphosate use in the guide rail area. So, you know, the least one thing we're trying to do is to cut those guide rails rather than spraying them.
I just have one comment too, and when you're talking about each municipality and what their different guidelines were, Shirley, I'm not sure whether you can comment on this or not, but we had a soil and crop walk just this week, and was happy to see the Green Stream truck go by, but was very disappointed that the timing was just last week. I mean, we're already past, most weeds are already gone to seed at this point. So I mean, timing is everything when we're talking herbicides. So just wondered if you had a comment with that.
Thanks very much, Chair Reid. And all I can say is that I will go back to staff and inquire about that, because that's good feedback to know that that timing is a little bit too late, and we'll see if we can get that improved next year.
Again, Chair Reid, if I may, too, our contract with Green Stream ends this year, so we're going to be re-tendering that probably in the fall. So we'll be contacting the member municipalities to see who wants to be on board with that again.
Excellent. Lori, I see your hand is up.
Just a quick question. So for years, we've known that Truvis was the product to be used, and it wasn't licensed. It was only licensed for roadside use, not for farm use. And it was also, we were told, was cost prohibitive, so farmers wouldn't be able to afford it anyways. So now with the Navius Flex, the labeling, it talks about grazing and hayfield. So it really looks that farmers could use it now. What is the cost of this in comparison to Truvist? Is it a lower cost so farmers could start using it on farm?
I can't speak on the price of it. I think it's about the same, to be honest. I don't think it's any cheaper than what the Truvist was originally.
I did find another product when I was looking yesterday called Rinscore by Bayer, I believe. And it looks like, I don't know what the cost of it is, but I wonder if farmers can look into that. And if it is lower price, it looks like it's effective against wild chervil. And maybe that's something we could start using if need be.
I also don't have any, I haven't had a chance to try that product. I think it's a fairly new product that they're bringing out, so.
Yeah, and just another comment, if there's any questions about wild chervil, et cetera, Mike Calbro from OMAFRA is the person to ask. And so reach out to him if you have farm specific questions or roadside questions.
That's great. Are there any other questions for Mark and Jim? If not, thank you guys for the presentation, and keep fighting the good fight. Moving on to 4B, verbal update extension of the provincial planning statement, commenting deadline to August 4th, 2023, and minister's remarks. So I'm not sure who that is directed to, but moving on.
Yeah, I can take this one, Chair Reid. Thank you for letting me address the committee today.
This is just a follow-up to our first meeting we had back in May, where we dealt largely with the provincial planning statement and the changes being proposed to the province. And I think it's fair to say around the committee table, there was significant concern with respect to some of the proposed changes. And at that time, the report was brought to you in a bit of a hurried fashion because the commenting deadline was going to be early June. In this case, the province has since updated the environmental registry posting to say that you now have until August 4th to provide comments. The county did provide our comments to the province, which included the Ag Advisory Committee's feedback. The other thing they've done, and this is covered in item 6C of the agenda, the correspondence from the minister to the beef farmers, is give an indication that it seems like they're going to be pulling back a little bit on some of the proposed agricultural changes. So I think for county staff and hopefully the members of this table, that appears to be good news. The only caveat there is we haven't seen what those proposed changes look like yet. So we'll certainly do our best to keep both this table and council up to date in that regard as soon as we see any revised policies. But at this point, with the comment deadline being August 4th, I'm not expecting we'd see any revisions until after that comment deadline. The other thing, just to update you with respect to the previous report, they have now released the natural environment policies as well, and they look very similar to the formal natural environment policies. The province hasn't given us any time frame for when we might see a further revised provincial planning statement or a final version. There's some speculation that it might come late fall or early winter, but that's purely speculation at this point. So a bit of an update for you. Certainly happy to take any questions if there are any, but if not, we'll continue to keep you in the loop in this regard. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Scott. Any questions for Scott while he's still here? Hearing none, we will keep moving. Number 5, which is a roundtable discussion, sector trends and challenges. Was there, oh, Scott, yes, go ahead.
Since no one else is speaking, sorry. Just wanted to flag this for maybe a future discussion point. We get questions from time to time from both council and the public and to a lesser extent farmers about tile drainage. And as county staff, it's not something we get too actively involved with or have a great deal of knowledge on. But based on some of the questions we've had over the years, and some of those relate to who regulates it, what are the impacts, the benefits and the impacts in that regard. We didn't know if it's a topic that people around this table would want to see some further information on. If we were to want to discuss further, we could do some research, maybe look at a guest speaker and come back to the October meeting or a future meeting and discuss this topic in greater detail. That said, if you're all already experts on it and don't need to hear from county staff, then we don't want to waste your time either. But just as you're going through your sector trends and updates, if anyone wants to weigh in on the tile drainage piece, we'd certainly love any feedback in that regard. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Scott. I'll just maybe quickly talk about that for a minute. We had Grey Saba Conservation Authority also had an Ag Advisory Committee meeting this morning, and drainage was talked about it and is going to be on the next agenda item 2 for the next meeting. Grey Saba also has just hired Ian Erickson, which was a former drainage inspector with GM Blue Plan. So there is that conversation is happening, I think, and I think there is a huge potential to do some green infrastructure, planning and stuff like that we can implement maybe in the design stage. That would be quite helpful, and I think that agriculture is a huge opportunity to do things like that. So that's probably speaking for 2 or 3 of us that are on the call here with the county meeting, but we did discuss that this morning. So I think it is a hot topic and definitely worth the discussion. Comments from Brenda?
Yes, definitely a hot topic, especially as we are already suffering from some of the more extremes in weather brought about by the climate crisis. the heavier rainfalls, the lack of rainfall. I think we need to probably, as a community, talk a little bit more about surface water drainage, how the tiling on one farm can end up flooding another farm, or flooding roads, damming roads. I think that we've probably all seen over the past 5 to 10 years quite a difference in the way water runs across all of our different properties. I certainly have noticed a very different set of wet spots, on roads and coming off fields and everything. And I think that it would be good to have something educational, but I think it might also be time for us to actually have a larger community discussion with farm groups, with tile drainage companies, with the conservation areas, to talk a little bit about how all of this interacts, because that's the thing with water. It's not just on your neighbor's land. Like it's something that runs across all of ours. And there are also better technologies available now, which may not be that well known. I know that I was talking with Mel Limas a few months back, and she was talking about sort of new styles of tile draining now, where you could actually, close it and backflow it, save the water, send it back up to provide irrigation. I don't know how prevalent any of this is, how much more expensive that is, but I think that there probably does need to be more discussion across all of our different sectors about how water running off of one area just affects all of our neighbors and our waterways. So I would definitely be in support of opening up these discussions. I think they probably will be hard discussions to have, because nobody likes a flooded area. And so if one group wants to unflood their area and floods their neighbor, well, everybody's smiling. Everybody knows that, has already seen this happen with neighbors or whatnot. So yeah, I think this is actually something we need to discuss as an entire community, both like county level, municipally, farm, conservation, everything.
Okay, great. Any other comments on that, or any other issues that are worth discussing? Okay, hearing none, seeing none. Moving to number 6, which is correspondence. A would be the media release, Ontario investing in improved soil health. Is there someone to speak to that?
I can just speak to that briefly, Chair Reid. It's number of these correspondence that we just put on the agenda just to bring awareness to the committee. If the group hasn't seen some of these correspondence, just to bring attention to it. This one is the Ontario is investing obviously some funding to what they indicate is to equip farmers with technology. They need to maximize the health of soil, increase productivity. And the funding will help improve soil data mapping and soil evaluation and monitoring. So that's kind of the key focus of that particular funding piece. Yeah, so that's we just wanted to bring this to the committee's attention in terms of correspondence that we've received that we wanted to share with the group.
Okay, are there any other comments regarding to the correspondence? Okay. Now I feel bad that I rushed Savannah and Nancy through. Moving on to other business. Yes, go ahead, Lori.
I'd just like to share a couple of events coming up. So next Thursday night is an opportunity, a free opportunity, to watch Dr. Lee Breeze speak about soil health. Lots of opportunity for questions and answers. Georgian Soil and Crop is putting on this event with the support of OSCIA. We have a grant that will cover his speaking opportunity time with us. We had him at Grey Bruce Farmers Week, and he's a rock star. He's fantastic. He knows everything there is to know about soil health. So if you want to participate, it is next Thursday night, July 27th from 8 till 9:30 p.m. It will be recorded as well. You can find the link on social media or just email me and I'll send you the link, and then you can participate with us. I just bumped up our Zoom account to 500 today, so I'm hoping that we get close to that. It would be fantastic. So anyways, we hope that you will participate in that discussion. Lots of opportunities to learn. A lot of the correspondence we saw was soil health related, so this will help you learn more about soil health. And I did want to mention too, the Dufferin Plowing Match, first time in 110 years. It is occurring from September 19th to 23 in Dufferin County, hosted on one of our Georgian Soil and Crop members' farms. So don't miss it when it is so close. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Lori. Mayor McQueen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just maybe something to think about maybe for a future agriculture advisory discussion. I just received this yesterday from Minister of Energy, Powering Ontario's Growth, Ontario's plan for a clean energy future. Nothing in the sense of anything specific, but how is this going to affect agriculture, I think, in the future and specifically in Grey County? And I think it's just something that we should just sort of have on the future. I don't know if you can see that book. Maybe others have received it and we'll focus there. Anyway, yeah, maybe you can see it there. Anyway, I just think it's something that I know with solar and different things, right, wrong, sideways, I think it's something that we should probably think about, talk about, look at, what's coming, what's available, what opportunities are there, what's the issues, what's the concerns. It's just something that obviously Powering Ontario Clean Energy could affect, a good portion of agricultural lands, and maybe there's opportunities as well. So just food for thought, but I think it's something that we should sort of maybe think about it at a future meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Paul. Brenda? Brenda?
Sorry, I got frozen. Is it my turn to say something?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I just wanted to say that NFU Grey, we are going to hold one event in the fall, September 23rd, and it's going to be an event held at Massey Hall, so, sort of central, and we've invited Scott to come and speak for us as well on a panel, but we want to have a discussion about land sharing, land access, land succession, all the issues that have to do with younger farmers, newer farmers not being able to access land, how farmers who have land can possibly share it all, or what sort of our various barriers are, both culturally, economically, housing wise. It's a little open-ended, and it's definitely more of a community building exercise, not so much of a prescriptive sort of thing. But I just want to let you know that we are looking into getting that organized, and we will send out information to our fellow farm organizations as well, because we do want to have farmers talking about this with each other, because I think that the future of farming in Grey County really does rely on keeping farmland farmed for the next generations and not all turning into estate properties. So, so I just want to put that date on your radar and keep your eyes open for an eventual email from me or another member of my group of directors. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Brenda, for that. Any other new business from anyone?
Sorry, Keith, I missed the date there, Brenda.
September 23rd, it's a Saturday.
Okay. Thank you.
And it'll include dinner. It'll be like a 4 to 8. And because we are talking, young, new, whatever farmers, we'll even have childcare. So people can come, their kids will go into a program, we'll watch them, and then the parents can actually have a real conversation with somebody about something.
Okay, any other business? Hearing none. We have the next meeting date as potential of October 19th at 1 o'clock. Is that a confirmation with everyone? Will that date work? Seeing some nods. Nobody's saying it isn't. So it looks like October 19th will be our next meeting date. Will that be virtual or hybrid or in person?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the intention is to remain virtual, I believe, for the next meeting.
Okay. Okay. Could I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I have a long-standing tradition of doing that, so I'll continue on with the tradition.
Great. Thanks, Simon. And thank you, everyone. 20 minutes under time. That's great. We covered a lot of ground. So looking forward to getting together again in October.
Thank you. See y'all.
Thanks, everyone.